Hello everybody, it's Vertical Sandwich. Welcome back to Book Reviews. And today we have this. So this is Larry Niven's Ringworld. This one in 1971. So yeah, 71. 340 pages, but it's this weird. I got this weird pocket-sized hardcover. Like, it's very strange. This is one of the strangest books I received when I started ordering Hugo Award winners. I never read this copy, by the way. I read the book when I was on the road, and when I was reading books and donating them because I was living out of my car, which was a thing that happened. And I read this and the Ringworld series, so I had to buy new copies for these kind of reviews. So yeah, like. And one of the things I will say, I like Ringworld a lot. It's good, interesting science fiction. However, what I don't like is the Ringworld Engineers, which is a sequel. So I wouldn't suggest it. Like, that being said, this one won the Hugo Award in 1971, so we have to talk about it. And I liked it, so yeah. So let's just talk. Let's just read the back. Now, it looks like this is, on the back, this is a quote from Larry Niven. I myself have dreamed up an intermediate step between Dyson spheres and planets. Build a ring 93 million miles in radius, one Earth orbit, which would make it 600 million miles long. If we have the mass of Jupiter to work with, and if we make it 1 million miles wide, we get a thickness of about 1,000 meters. The Ringworld would thus be much sturdier than a Dyson sphere. There are other advantages. We can spin it for gravity. A rotation on its axis of 770 miles per second would give the Ringworld one gravity outward. We wouldn't even have to have a roof over it. Put walls 1,000 miles high at each rim. Aim it at the sun, and very little air will leak over the edges. The thing is roomy enough. 3 million times the area of the Earth. It will be some time before anyone complains of the crowding. So that is the premise of this novel, is that this group discovers an abandoned Ringworld, this thing he's talking about, and they put together a team to go explore it. A team that is kind of diverse. So, one of them is Larry Wu. He is, I believe, celebrating his 200th birthday when he is drafted into this team. One of them is a man called, or a thing called Speaker to Animals, who is a Kazin, a race that fought a very long war against humanity and is incredibly aggressive. Let me see. I can look at this. Tila Brown, a young woman who is a fourth generation result of a birth lottery on Earth. So her great-grandparents won the birth lottery to have a child. Her grandparents won a birth lottery to have a child. Her parents won a birth lottery to have a child, and she is the result, I believe. Yeah, sounds right. And I don't remember the name of the Pearson's puppeteer, who is the creature who is leading the expedition. They are a trading race, and the Pearson's puppeteers disappeared from Earth a while back, and one comes back to Louis Wu's birthday party to recruit him to be on this team of explorers to kind of see what's going on with this Ringworld. That's the deal, the thing that is going on. So the book is an exploration book. It's all about exploring this weird kind of physics and topography. And we're going to pick up at chapter 8 called Ringworld, or the first gig. The puppeteer worlds had been moving at near light speed along galactic north. Speaker had circled in hyperspace to galactic south of the G2 sun, with the result that the Liar, as it fell out of, that's the name of their ship, as it fell out of the blind spot, was already driving straight into the Ringworld system at high velocity. Speaker to Animals is the name of the Kazin, K-Z-I-N, I think. The G2 star was a blazing white point, Lewis, returning from other stars, had seen Sol looking very much like this from the edge of the solar system. But this star wore a barely visible halo. Lewis would remember this. His first sight of the Ringworld. From the edge of the system, the Ringworld was a naked eye object. Speaker ran the big fusion motors up to full power. He tilted the flat thruster discs out of the plane of the wing, lining their axes along ship's aft, and added their thrust to the rockets. The Lyre backed into the system, blazing like twin suns, decelerating at nearly 200 gravities. Tila didn't know that because Lewis didn't tell her. He didn't want to worry her. If the cabin gravity were interrupted for an instant, they'd all be flattened like bugs beneath a heel. But the cabin gravity worked with unobtrusive perfection. Throughout the life system, there was only the gentle pull of the puppeteer world and the steady, muted tremor of the fusion motors. For the rumble of the drives forced its way through the only available opening, through a wire and conduct no thicker than a man's thigh, and once inside it was everywhere. Even in hyperdrive, the Speaker preferred to fly in a transparent ship. He liked a good field of view, and the blind spot didn't seem to affect his mind. The ship was still transparent except for private cabins, and the resulting view took getting used to. The lounge and the control cabin wall and floor and ceiling, all of which curved into one another, were not so much transparent as invisible. In the apparent emptiness were blocks of solidity. Speaker in the control couch, the horseshoe-shaped bank of green and orange dials which surrounded him, the neon-glowing borders of doorways, the cluster of couches around the lounge table, the block of opaque cabins aft, and of course the flat triangle of the wing. Beyond and around these were the stars. The universe seemed very close, and somewhat static, for the ring star was directly aft, hidden behind the cabins, and they could not watch it grow. The air smelled of ozone and puppeteers. Nessus, that's the puppeteer, who should have been cowering in terror with the rumble of 200 gravities in his ears, seemed perfectly comfortable sitting with the others around the lounge table. They will not have hyperwave, he was saying. The mathematics of the system guarantees it. Hyperwave is a generalization of hyperdrive mathematics, and they cannot have hyperdrive. But they might have discovered hyperwave by accident. No, Tila, we can try the hyperwave band since there is nothing else to try while we are decelerating, but... More Tange waiting! Tila stood up suddenly and half ran from the lounge. Like, Lewis answered the puppeteer's questioning look with an angry shrug. So, you can kind of get the feel for this. It's very jargon heavy. Niven is masterful at creating a foreign world of advanced technology, and you can really get into that kind of stuff, right? 340 pages, classic of science fiction. It's an interesting story, and there are amazing surprises in it, like a lot of revelations, these four characters that are very different from completely different cultures that normally, well, I mean, Lewis and Tila are both human. But the Kazin, it literally is like KZ. I'm looking it up right now. Look it up. It's got to be in Speakers to Animal. Yeah. This should just pop right out, like, because it's such a weird word, right? No, I'm not kidding it. Interesting. Oh, KZIN. Kazin. Or just Zen. It might be just Zen. KZIN. That's what I thought it was. So, yeah. This kind of, this hyper-aggressive kind of race that is, that spent years at war with humans stuck in there, and then the Pearson's puppeteer, they are incredibly timid creatures that are a trading race, kind of all stuck in the ship together, going to explore this Ringworld, and kind of the price that they've all extracted for joining this mission, and kind of what happens to them, and what they encounter, and and then the question of who built such a thing. I mean, it's this huge engineering project, which is really what they're all after, is to figure out who could have done this and what happened to them. It's an interesting story for the sake of an interesting story, which can be sci-fi at its best, right? It's not. This isn't going to teach you, like, this doesn't attempt to critique your humanity, or, you know, it's just Larry Niven went, I have this fascinating idea, like, let's write a story about it, and he does, and it's a good story, and I liked it. One of the things about the Ringworld too is that they have suspended, like, giant shades around the sun to create a day-night cycle, and it's just things like that you just go like, man, like, there's something beautiful about, like, Rendezvous with Rama and, like, Ringworld, where somebody goes like, I have an idea, like, let's just work it out, like, let's logically take it to its absolute end. And Niven does that masterfully in Ringworld. It's beautifully done. It really is. And the dynamics of the characters and kind of the things that they get into and kind of how their personal strengths and weaknesses kind of affect this journey, is amazingly just done. It's just amazingly done. And I can't, it's hard to talk about Ringworld without spoiling it because of kind of what everything turns out to be. And if you want an answer to, if you read Ringworld and you want an answer to the unanswered questions in Ringworld, they're answered in the Ringworld Engineers. I just didn't love it as a book. Whereas Ringworld I found very refreshing and very interesting. And for 71 sci-fi, it's very good. I mean, it's very, it's reasonably fresh. It aged really well because it doesn't make an attempt to connect itself to the Earth of the time, right? It's all over the place. People are 200 years old, and there's faster than light travel, and we've met aliens, and, you know, they're, so, yeah, societies, things, stuff. It was very good. It was very, very good. And it's a nice science fiction read if what you want is kind of classic science fiction. This is the thing you think about when you think about classic science fiction, when you think about just somebody taking an interesting idea, like aliens and faster than light travel, putting it on paper, and you enjoying it. Boom! Ringworld. So I know this is a pretty short review, because again, I can't talk about a lot of it without spoiling what happens at the Ringworld and what they find, but you know, it's obviously, it's fraught with perils and things that they don't expect, and alien things, and it's just good that way. Yeah, like Ringworld. So yeah, I would suggest it. 1971 winner, Larry Niven, classic of science fiction. A lot of people have read this book. A lot of people like this book, and I would suggest it. It's a good book. It's a good book. Like I said, if you want a classic science fiction read, it's just about an interesting engineering idea, yeah, this is a great book for that. So I will see you guys for the next book review we do, which is going to be something else. See you guys for that. Bye, everybody.